Hello, my name is Justin Baker, and I'm going to show you guys how to make my tic-tac-toe game. This right here is my tic-tac-toe game, and here is all the code. I'm going to teach you guys how to make and how to understand it. Now, let's begin. First, I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's done. This is what it looks like when it's done. It's a fully functional tic-tac-toe game with a reset button, and it also checks for ties if I can get as a tie showing here. Yes. So see, there's a tie. Now, let's begin with actually starting and making our file. Now, let's start and make our file. So we go to File, New, Project, discard this. This was just a test project. We're going to click on Windows Form Application. We're going to name it your name, so whatever your name is, and then tic-tac-toe. We're going to press OK. We're going to let that load. Now, we're going to make another form. We're going to go to our project. We're going to go Add Windows Form. Let that load. Click on Windows Form. We're going to name this Result. This can be our form that tells us who wins. Now, we're going to rename this form, our Form 1, by going here. But first, let's save all. We want to save the whole thing, right? So we're going to browse a select spot. I already have a specific spot for mine. Right here, select folder, OK, and name it exactly what I told you to name your project. Click on Save here. All right, now let's name our form here by going to File, Save As, going to where we saved it. I saved it in my flash drive. We go to here, to here, and we're going to name this, right? We're going to call it Game Board. There we go. Now we have Game Board and Result. Notice how this one says Result. This one says Form 1. We go over to our name property here, and we're going to call this Game Board. Okay, there we go. Now we have our file set up. Now for the next step, where we design our game. Okay, so now it's time to design our game. This is where we add our objects, because this is object-oriented programming. This is what Visual Basic is. These are our objects. And so what first we're going to do, let's set the size of both forms. They're both going to be the same size. The size of these forms are going to be this right here. Exactly. And we're going to change that for this one too. And put that there. Now, we're going to change the color of these. What color should we do? I put highlight in the one that we did for a model. So we're going to do highlight. Highlight. Oh, that's 4 color. My bad there. Okay, we go to our back color and type highlight. There we go. We changed our form color. Now, you can change this to whatever you want. I'm just using this for the demonstration. Highlight. Okay, so now we have highlight, highlight. Now, something that I didn't notice, I did not say last part. You want to click here. This is an error. Right now, we don't have something called Form 1. We named it Game Board. We need to change this to access that. All right? So tic-tac-toe, right? Dot Game Board. This is telling you what your main form will be. Now, that is saved. We won't have any issues now because of that. So save that change. Now we have both our forms here, and I forgot to change this. This needs to say Game Board, right? Game Board. Now, okay, so we got our results. It's name Result. Now let's start putting in our buttons. These are going to be our 9 tiles that we're going to put our X and O's on. These are going to be 100 by 100. So we're going to click on our button here. We're going to click that. We're going to rename this nothing. We don't want anything in it. We're going to call it BTN 1. All right, and we're going to go to our size, wherever that is. There it is. And we're going to make it 100 by 100. There. We're going to put 9 of these, okay? So we're just going to Control C, Control P, V. And we're going to keep doing that until we have it. Our tiles all set up. There. Now we have our tiles all set up. Now let's rename these tiles. Right here, we're going to call, so this one's BTN1. This one will be called BTN2. And so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to fast-face through this because it's just repetitive. Alright, now we're going to take our label tool, alright, which is in here as well. Drag our label, and we're going to name it. We're going to name our label specifically LBL Player Turn. So, LBL Player Turn. Alright? This we're going to have as a big X. Big X. Alright? What size did we specifically want our X? We go to our font, which is another one of our properties. Right here. We go to our font size, and we want to make it 80. Alright, so this is going to tell us whose turn it is. Is it going to be X or is it going to be O's? Next, we're just going to get a text, and we're going to call it turn, right? So, I already had that set up. It's very simple, just the same as we made our X. We're going to put it there, and now let's make our reset button. We could just copy our normal button, right? And rename it BTN Reset, like so. And we go to our text component and type in reset. Reset. Sorry about that. Go to our thing, BTN Reset, and there we go. We have this form all done. Now to go to our next form. Our next form is our result form. And our result form is very simple. This is what our result form looks like, right? We have who won, the person has won, this is a text that says has won, and plus reset to play again. Very simple. The only thing that changes is this right here. So let's make that. But there are specific names that I have within my coding that you want to make sure you have here. So we're going to click on our labels, label here, and this one we're making is called LBL Player 1. This is the one that's going to be changing based on who won. LBL Player 1. Okay? Now LBL Player 1 is going to be X for default, just for this, okay? So we're going to change that to an X. And we're going to change it to be a size of, let me check here. It's going to be the same as our last one. It's going to be 80. So we go to here. We're going to put it as 80. Now, notice this is in a square. It's auto-sized. We don't like that. We want it to be default. This way, when we have a tie, we can change it so it doesn't side to one corner or whatever. It looks ugly. So now let's make that better by doing our text align in middle center. There. Now even if we get the text tie example, my bad there, we go to tie, it fits perfectly in there. But we're going to go back to our X, and now we have LBL Player 1. Alright. Now we want our has one. It's very simple. LBL has one. We go to our label here. That's a link label. We go to our label. Where did my label go? Okay, there it is. And we go and we name this one LBL has one. And LBL has one, we're going to change to has one. Alright? And we're going to change the size of that one specifically to 40. Font size 40. Has one. Alright, there we go. And you can have that bolded if you want there. Now, we're going to have another called LBL Play Again. This is going to tell us that you want to play again. If you want to play again, you press the reset button. So, we're going to call this LBL Play Again. Alright? And we're going to change that text to press reset to play again. Alright? So, press reset to play again. The font size I had for that one as well is 25. So we go to our font size, which is over here, and we set it to 25, and we center that. Now there's an easier way to center this. We can go to Format. We can go to Center Form and go horizontal. Now it's centered. Now, don't forget, we have a reset button we want to put in here. So, what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to copy my reset button here. Copy that, because it's the same, it's going to have the same code in it. And just put it here and fix it, right? And let's center that to our form here. There we go. And move this up a little bit. Alright, I think we are ready for the coding. Alright, now time to start our coding process for our game to give it functionality. First, we're going to double click on our form here, and we're going to declare our two global variables, player and turn. So dim player as string equals x. This will assign our player, which will be x when we start, because when you play tic-tac-toe, x is the starting player. Now, we're going to declare our turn variable as string equals 1. This is the state between 1 and 2, meaning which player's turn it is. Now, when we start the game, on the game board load, which is how we double click to get this showing, it's another one of our objects, we're going to start it off and assign our player value to be right here, LBL player turn dot text equals player. So whatever our player is, we're going to make our LBL player turn text to be, which will change based on whose state it is. Now we're going to get our buttons all programmed. So we're going to double click on one of our buttons, and we're going to type this specifically in. For each one of them, you're going to change it. So this one's going to be btn1.text equal player. This will basically, based on whoever's player state it is, it's going to assign that value to our buttons text. Now, we're going to go to btn1.enabled and equal false. This makes it so we can't click on this button anymore. Then we're going to run our swap function, which is our swap turns, and put it in parentheses. Ignore this right now. We're going to make this function later on. Now, we're going to do this for all 9 of them. I'm going to do it for one more, and then I'm going to cut through. So, we go over to here, double click on our next one. You can just honestly copy, paste this, and just change it to 2. And I will cut this out, and we'll be done with all 9 of those. Okay, so now let's do our swap turns function. So we're going to make a new function. We're going to go to the very end of our code here. We're going to do private function, and we're going to call it swap turns. We'll put that in parentheses, and that's going to make an end function. We're going to type in a return swapped turns. This is not, it's just required, or else you're going to get a little warning here. So now we're going to make this function swap between two states, a state 1 and a state 2. State 1 is X, state 2 is O. So how we'll do that is we're going to make a if-else statement. So first we're going to run our checker statement, which we don't, our checker function, which we don't have yet. We're going to make that after this one, and that's going to check to see if who won or if it's a tie, and it will play through from there. But this solely just changes between 1s and 2. So let's start with the function, our if statement. If turn, our value of turn, equals 1, then it will assign the value player equals 0. Well, O, right? And it will turn the turn value to 2, meaning the player's turn is 0. Well, O. And then we'll run a refresher function that updates the value. Now, else if, so basically if the turn is 1, then that means that it must be X's turn, and as soon as X goes, which is after this function's called, then it will make it player 2's turn, which is O, which will make it assign to player 2, which is O. Now the same thing goes with this one. So else if turn equals 2, then player equals X. Turn equals 1. And we run a refresher function again. Right? It doesn't know about a refresher function yet. It will later. Now we're going to put our end if. Alright? And they already put an end if. I did not see it. There we go. That's our swap turns function. Now we're going to make our checker function. For this next function, you're going to want to use the worksheet I gave you. This worksheet is going to tell you exactly which combinations of enabled buttons equals a tie or a win. This specifically, the checker function, checks to see if there are 3 in a row. And so basically, we're going to make a new function called private function, right? Checker. And you can make any function doing this. Now, we're going to have a return value, and it could just be whatever. It's just so that we don't have a warning under here. Well, yeah, a warning. So, we're going to call it checked. Okay? Doesn't matter. Now, I'm just going to show you 2 of them. You're going to take the worksheet and build the rest. You're going to do it for X, and then you can copy over and change the O for the other one. Or you can do them both. It's up to you. So I'm going to show you how to do 2 of the 8 combinations for each. So there are in total 16 combinations you have to type out. It's very repetitive, and I just did the 8 and pasted over, did the O's. So let's make the first one. So it's an if statement. If btn 1 dot text equals X, right? And btn 2 dot text equals X, and btn 3 dot text equals X. Then our result form dot show. This will make our result window show up, and it will then, on our result window, this will call our result window, and the label on our result window called LVO player 1, right? Dot text, if I can spell today, equals X. And then we're going to cause our whole game to stop. It will disable all our buttons with our pause function, which I will be making after we make our checker function. So this is for 1. This exactly is for the one right that's top across. Now we're going to make one more, and then you can take the worksheet and follow through with the rest. So if btn 4 dot text equals x and btn 5 dot text equals x and btn 6 dot text equals x, then we do exactly the same thing. You could legit just copy this. There you go. Now, we don't have a pause function working right now. We could actually make it so it doesn't have that error right now and make our pause function. So private pause, parentheses, function pause, parentheses. There. Now we don't have that issue. We can make a refresher function as well while we're at it. So private refresher function refresher, and there we go. We have that function now. Now these don't return a value, so they now have warnings. We have to make a return value. So this one would be return game is paused. This one could be return updated values. And that is that function. And we can make our other function here, private function. Did I spell that right? Function if tied and return tied. And then make our another function here, our, let me see what we have here. Do we have our reset function? We need that one. Private function reset. And return that with a value. Return game reset. Reset. Okay, so now we have all our functions. Now let's put code in each one of those. So I'm going to stop this for a second and fill out our checker function. One thing I noticed when I was filling out my checker function, I forgot to mention, you're going to want to put if tied at the very start of your checker function. This will check if there's a tie first before it checks if there's 3 in a row. This is really important because if you had it the other way around, you would never find out if there's a tie. Tie means only when all 9 are disabled, all buttons. So this specifically explains all of the combinations right here. I have them all explained. So let's start with our next function, our pause function. Our pause function basically just disables all the buttons. Just disables all of them. So we'd do btn1.enabled equal false. And we'd do this for every single button. So I'm not going to do all the buttons. I'm just going to pause this and show you all 9 of the buttons disabled. Okay, so that's the pause function with all of its buttons disabled. Basically, btn.enabled meaning is the button able to be clicked and set it to false, meaning you can't click it anymore, and this will basically pause the game. So now for our next function, our refresher function. This is only just to update our values because we don't want anything frozen. So LBL player turn, that label dot text equal player. That is all. That is just updating our player, make sure that it's constantly being updated. That is run through all our functions so that we have the most accurate player value. Now for our next function, our if-tied function, which is all it's checking, our if-tied function is checking for is btn1 btn through 1 to 9. If it is false, then set the tie value to 1. And I'm going to show you the finished form of that. So this is our if tied function all filled out. So it's basically checking if all the buttons are false, meaning all the buttons were clicked, then return yes, this is a tie game, and show our result window and go to our LBL on this form. On the form result, call the label player1, change the text to tie, and then the if tied function. So now we are going to do our reset function, which is really just like the pause function. So this is our reset function all complete here. Our reset function is just like our pause function, but instead it enables our buttons so that we can start over and we can click them again. And it sets the values of all the players' texts instead of the X's and O's to blank so that we can start again. It assigns the value, okay, player 1, and we're starting with the state of 1, and then we run the refresher function. This is everything to function our game. Okay, so now we have all our functions written out. Let's run our game. But before we do that, we want to change these. We never assign them a font size. We want to assign them a font size of 60. And now let's start it and see what we made. Here we go. This is our game board. This is our tic-tac-toe game that you guys just made. And it's fully functionable. X is 1. Good job. Oh, we have not assigned reset to our btn reset function. So let's do that real quick. So we double click on our reset button and we make it call the reset function. Also, one other note. The reset function is not supposed to be a private function. It's supposed to be a public function because we're going to call it in our result one here. So we're going to go to gameboard.reset. That's going to call the gameboard's function. Why is that not gameboard.reset? That's going to call the function reset that's on the gameboard form. Now let's try that again. Press our start here. And we have made ourselves a tic-tac-toe game. And it works great. X has 1. Okay, there's one other thing. To make it close the form when you press the reset button, you're going to want to go to our result window here, and we're going to make this close.me. It's me.close. Me represents the active window. So the result form is the active window when you get your result. So this will close that form. And now let's run this one last time. And voila, we have made it. Let's see if I can get a tie. Yeah, I can't get a tie. Alright, and that is how you make the tic-tac-toe game.